Alright, I'm here with a different kind of video. I don't really talk about news too often, but I felt like I had a unique perspective and a perspective that I've not heard anyone speak with when discussing a current piece of news that kind of hit me in a certain way. It kind of bothered me a little bit, but it is. I will be talking about the PlayStation 3, PlayStation Portable, PSP, and PlayStation Vita stores going down. And I think that's really unfortunate. Certainly for preservation, that's not the angle I'm going to be taking. There's plenty of people taking that preservation angle, and I think that's important. I mean, it's really, really bad to see a lot of games that were never released. You know, the PS3 store did not carry over to the PS4, didn't carry over to the PS5. So there's a lot of games that were never released anywhere else, which is really, really bad. And a lot of those games probably won't be released anywhere else. You know, that he had that PSP Minis line, if anyone remembers that. Those games are probably all going to be just lost in the ether, and that's really, really bad. That's not really what I want to talk about. I'm a collector. I'm not a preservationist. I don't always think they're the same thing. I don't think that, me having a copy of Super Mario World is really doing much for preservation or, whatever. The real preservationists are out there. They're doing great work. And a lot of collectors think they are preservationists. Most of the time they're not. But I'm not going to get into that. I do want to talk about, though, just the game pricing and accessibility to specific games, especially, legacy titles, that the PS3 and the PlayStation Vita and PSP really gave us that is going to be now lost. And what I think is really unfortunate. So I kind of just went through and I just highlighted some games on the PlayStation 1 classics, the PlayStation 2 classics, and some PSP games that are going to be just dropped and are not going to be accessible to get. And what I think this is going to do. So most of us are aware that the PlayStation 1 Classics line was on, not specifically the PlayStation 1 Classic, the subpar, plug-and-play machine. The PS1 Classics line on PlayStation 3 and on Vita and on PSP, you could download classic PlayStation games and play them on your console. And it was, cross-play. You could have them on, you bought it on PS3, you had it on your Vita. Really, really cool, really, really cool program. A great way to experience a lot of classic PlayStation 1 games for a really good price. Most of the games were either $6 or $10. It was kind of arbitrary of what they were actually priced at. But nonetheless, it was a great program and a great way for myself included and a lot of people to experience classic games. You got a release like Vib Ribbon, which was a game for the PlayStation 1, really unique kind of rhythm game. And that game did not come out in North America until the PlayStation Classics version. So that's really, really cool. But what I'm specifically talking about is how prohibitively expensive, and I talked about this on my Twitter, how prohibitively expensive a lot of classic games are now to play, just to be able to play legally. And what this is doing, taking down the store is doing to these game prices and allowing people to play games. So a good example of this is Klonoa, which is a really, really great classic, Namco platformer series. And the first game is very expensive just to play the game. I'm just talking the loose disc price. According to video game price charts, that's where all my prices will be. According to video game price charts, that is a $197 game. And that's a game you can get on the PlayStation Store for either $6 or $10. I already had it downloaded, so I couldn't view it or for myself. But that really sucks. Anyone who wants to play this game now, I mean, I don't condone piracy, so I'm not going to say that I do in this video in front of everyone. But anyone who wants to play this game now has no other option if these stores go down, except they have to pay $197. Another game, Suikoden 2, classic RPG from Konami, $182. Neither of these games ever got a re-release. Klonoa got a remake on the Wii, which is also kind of expensive and hard to find. A game like Tomba is, about $87 for just a disc. Persona 2, Eternal Punishment, classic PS1 game, $104 just a disc. The Misadventures of Tron Bonne, a kind of the third game, sort of, in the Mega Man Legends series. $168 just a disc. I mean, it's crazy. Silent Hill, an all-time classic series. Silent Hill 1, I don't believe was ever re-released anywhere. Maybe on PC at some point, but it was never re-released on a console anywhere. And that game, just the disc now, runs you $82, somewhere around that area. And that's a classic game. There's no other way to play it except for getting it on there. An old From Software game, Shadow Tower, is about a $75 game loose. You could get these games for $6 to $10 each. So it's really a shame what's going on here, and just the accessibility and what's going to happen, because we all know supply and demand. It's a very very simple economic idea that we've all learned. We've learned in probably fourth grade or something. What's going to happen to the secondhand market, though? One of the big problems is that there's already a finite amount of copies. And now there is this way that very few people, I'm sure, are going back to play these games. Definitely not a drop in the pan for Sony in any way. But there's that option. If someone wants to go in and buy Klonoa, they have the option to go buy it for $10 on this PS3, play it on their Vita or whatever. They don't have to pay $200 for the disc. But now that option's been taken away, everyone has to come in. If they want to play the game legally, everyone has to come in and buy from that limited pool of games. And that's really unfortunate. There was also a PS2 Classics line. It's kind of similar. A lot of games on there, not quite as expensive disc only, although there are a few in that range. But some good games that never got re-released. Tulip, an old, I can't remember the studio's name, but they also did Rule of Rose, which is probably the most expensive and well-known expensive PS2 game. That game is, $73 for just the disc. The Fatal Frame trilogy, I mean, this isn't as expensive. Those games are about $30 each for the disc and, more than $40 complete and everything. But just for the ability to play those games, just to get the disc, which is, at least by collector's standards, in no way ideal to get it. But that's the bare minimum. Those are $30 each. You could get those, the PS2 games were $10 each on the PlayStation Store. So another game like God Hand, which got a very limited release, it was a huge bomb. Capcom game from Clover, their last game, before they kind of closed up and a lot of that staff went on to Platinum Games. It's about a $68 game loose, but in $106 games complete, you could get that game for $10, and I actually did get it on the PlayStation Store. Some big ones, and one of the biggest publishers that's really discouraging is Atlas, and we'll talk about them. I love Atlas, I love their games, but you got Devil Summoner and Devil Summoner 2 on the PS2 Classics, which are, respectively $108 and $110 games in that range, disc just for the disc. And you can get those both for $10, and we'll talk more about Atlas, but there's just no other way to play, I think, any of those PS2 games. And you can let me know if I'm wrong. But that's just really unfortunate. It just draws from that pool. It's going to drive up prices more on these older games. I mean, a game like Rule of Rose or Haunting Ground, some of the more expensive, several $100 games, they did not have in North America releases, and that's why they're so expensive. And are we going to be seeing, something like Devil Summoner or Tulip start to climb up to those that level because they were never re-released? And that these re-releases have gone away now. It's definitely interesting. As well as, there is the PSP games. I just had a few I wanted to kind of talk about. With the PSP, you can play, these were full downloads of the games. You can play them on the Vita. I've played PSP games on the Vita before. It works great. You can play them on the PSP as well. There's the PSP Go. If we talk about the PSP Go real quick, that thing's dead. I mean, besides hacking it, which I don't condone piracy. I just got to say that in front of people on the internet watching this video. But, yeah, I mean, that system's dead now. You can't do anything with it. So that's unfortunate. That was a little PSP that flipped up and was digital only. But another, a huge series now, not as huge as it was before, but a huge series now is the Persona series. The remake of Persona, the original game, on PSP has started to drive up, especially last year. These games really shot up in price. And that remake of that first game is about $75 just for the UMD disc. And similarly, $89 for Persona 2 Innocent Sin, that remake of that game on PSP. And really the only way in the West to be able to play the Persona 2 duology, it's two games, Eternal Sin and Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment. I got there. is to get them pretty much on the PlayStation Store, or because the Innocent Sin's the first part that was only on PSP, and Eternal Punishment's the second part and was only on PlayStation 1. I'm not going to give you a Persona history lesson right now. I don't need this video to be longer than it really is. But if you want to play the duology, to buy the disc for Persona 2 is $104, and to buy the UMD is $89 for Innocent Sin. So, between the PS1 release and the PSP release, you're looking at like $200 in games, or you could just go on. The PSP games are $20 on the PlayStation Store. PS1 games are $10 on the PlayStation Store. You could just go on and pick them up for $30 for the two of them. I mean, and that's just something unfortunate that's going to be going away. Persona 3 Portable is another one. Some people say it's the definitive way to play that game. I don't think so. I'd prefer FES, but I can see why people might think that. But that's like $119 just for the disc and about $160 loose or complete. And that, once again, that was $20 just poof, gone. Say another, example of that. And something that just is frustrating is just that, a lot of these publishers, I don't know if they realize that if they just looked at how much their games are, and I know a lot of people this is not going to be a popular sentiment for some value collectors and definitely for resellers, but these companies could just crater the secondhand market, really, if they wanted to. They could look at, oh, look, I see Persona 3 Portable is $119 just for the disc. Why don't we just re-release this? Because then that's just going to drive down the price. And Atlas, I know they're owned by Sega now. They don't really port much without overcharging for it and, being completely random with what they select. But it's just frustrating to see that a lot of companies, I mean, Atlas is a big company now. There's, Konami's in here, although who knows what the heck they're doing. Capcom has a game in here or two. And there's no other way to play these games other than, the PS3, which really hasn't been relevant in almost 10 years, and the Vita, which is, hasn't really been too relevant, even if games are coming out, and we'll talk about that. So it's just a shame. You look at that value, the prices on stuff, you look at how prohibitively expensive it is to play great games, like classic games, Silent Hill, Persona, the Fatal Frame games, stuff like that. You look at how prohibitively expensive that can be for some people, and you see this cheap alternative just being, whisked away. And it's just such a shame. And it's just a contrast, and I'm not even a huge Xbox fan. I'm more of a PlayStation fan. But it's such a huge contrast seeing what Xbox is doing, really trying their hardest to get these original Xbox games playable on the Xbox One and the Series X, able to purchase them, having a lot of 360 games available, trying to get that whole library playable, at least most of the notable stuff on there. It's such a huge thing there, and it's so unfortunate that Sony just doesn't seem to care. I mean, there was that interview with Jim Ryan where he's like, yeah, I went and played some Gran Turismo 3 or whatever. It looked like crap. Who wants to play these old games? And it's just like, this sucks. So I just wanted to kind of go over this. Once again, I would wait for, official confirmation on this. This video could just be stupid waste of time. But there's this person, I guess, whoever leaked this information is apparently reliable enough for everyone to write about this. But apparently the PSP and PS3 stores are supposed to be, shut down on July 2nd, and the Vita store is supposed to be August 27th. I would wait and see for official confirmation that this is happening before going out to buy some stuff, just in case. Maybe they'll do a sale. But I would definitely keep an eye out on stuff that you don't think you're going to find very often. PS2, PS1 games, especially expensive ones. If there's anything that you'd ever really want to play, interested in playing it, like I picked up God Hand. It's a game I've wanted to try out for a while. And I don't think I'm going to find that game for a good price anytime soon. So I figured, I just pick this up if I ever want to play it. Whenever I want to play it, I'm going to get into it. But I don't advise to go out and get a bunch of stuff real quickly until there's official. I mean, there's still a couple months for this to happen, and there's official confirmation. Maybe they'll do one last hurrah sale or something, although I don't think that's completely likely. But either way, I think this is a big bummer, and I think that at some point, I'm not saying right now, I would say wait and see if there's a sale, see if there's anything like this. I would recommend running out there and getting some games, especially if there's anything you want to play. I would definitely recommend getting on the Persona 2 and Persona 1 remake and the classic PS2 or PS1 Persona 2. I would definitely recommend just getting on anything that you might be interested in before it's gone. And I know we've seen this happen with the Wii Shop channel too. I think this is far more devastating than the Wii Shop channel, but we're going to just have to wait and see. Very unfortunate. And I'd like to hear what people's thoughts are. I didn't go into PS3 games that are download only. I'd love for people to leave comments down below with some of the ones you think I should get before it goes down. And any kind of, recommendations of what people should go out and get before it's too late. But other than that, I'd like to thank you for watching. Follow me on Twitter at Objo Gaming. If any more news comes out about this, I'm sure to talk about it. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and I will thank you. And I would like to thank you, and I will see you next time.